Church here, and welcome to the Game Grinder, and today we are doing a special edition pickup video. This is my Midwest Gaming Classic 2018 pickups, so I went to the convention with a list of games as kind of my wish list, and I was able to get a lot of them, and I got a lot of other really cool stuff. So let's just jump right into this. So first thing here are some friends hookups that were kind of arranged before the convention. I was talking to my friend Dennis, and he had a couple things that I really wanted, especially this first one, which I've been dying to get my hands on for quite a long time, and that is Metal Gear Solid for the Game Boy Color. Though this one isn't considered official canon in the storyline of the series, but still it's a pretty neat game, and I love how they did the art design for this one, and one step closer to having my complete Metal Gear Solid collection. And then the other thing I got from him was this Lara Croft Tomb Raider statue. Not exactly sure when these were released, but there were a few other statues to go along with this. The only thing that's missing is the Uzis that she comes with, but I'm hoping that I can probably find them online, maybe like some G.I. Joe guns or something like that. So thank you very much for those hookups. Definitely appreciated. Then another pre-arranged pickup was from my friend Lewis, and it's a couple strategy guides. We got Metal Gear Solid, not really a game that necessarily requires a strategy guide, but still really cool to have for the collection. And this one I was really excited for, and that is the official Xenogears strategy guide. And this is a good one to have. One of my favorite games, and always nice to have the guide to go with it. So while we're on strategy guides, just a few other random ones that I picked up while at the convention. Came across a vendor that was selling a lot of guides for pretty cheap, I would say, so I decided to grab a few of them for the hell of it. So we got Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, Tenchu Fatal Shadows, Tenchu 2, Birth of the Assassins, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, and lastly, Metal Gear Acid. So that is pretty cool. Back in the day, I was never really one to pick up strategy guides, but you know, when I can get the right price, I am more than happy to add them to the collection. So then on to my wish list pickups. These are all games that I have been looking for a long time, and like I said, I was able to find a good amount of the wish list that I had brought, but of course I have a monstrous wish list, so I couldn't get everything on there, and with the budget that I had, I'd make some choices, and some choices I made. So almost immediately when I got into the convention, the game that I was looking for last year that I wasn't able to find, I got it right away, and that is Cybernator for the Super Nintendo. This is actually part of a series of games. First one being Target Earth for the Genesis, and then there's been a recent follow-up, Assault Suit Linus, which was also released on PlayStation 4 and available digitally. And from that same vendor, I added another game to my Blizzard collection, and that is Blackthorn for the Super Nintendo. And as I said, made by Blizzard, the same people who brought us StarCraft and Diablo and Warcraft, Overwatch, and all those great other games. And really, the number one game I was looking for this year wasn't one that was, you know, crazy expensive or anything, but tried to find it last year at MGC, wasn't able to find it, and I actually came across a few copies this year, this being the best one that I could find. Unfortunately, it does not include the map, but has some pretty unique history as far as my gaming background, and that is Miracle Warriors. And this is actually the very first game that I have memories of seeing. I was either 5 or 6, and I went over to a friend's house who had the Master System, and this was the game that I was playing, and it blew me away. I'd never seen anything like it. Of course, this being a first-person RPG, and since then, I've just never had a chance to play it or pick it up. So very excited to add this to my collection, and I've heard pretty good things about it. Then the next game off my wish list here was hooked up by a friend, Cliff, and that is Drill Dozer for the Game Boy Advance. I first learned about this game through Nintendo, and I believe Radical Reggie also talked about it. A really cool looking platformer, which again, I'm really excited to check it out. And this next game here, I actually learned about through a friend, Tom. We've done a little hangout at his place with some of the other MN Retro Continuum folks. And this was a game that was not released in the US, but has since been ported, and people make reproductions, and that is Pulseman for the Sega Genesis. It was a very late release to the Mega Drive, and is actually made by the same people who brought us Pokemon. Very cool looking game, but I hear the end of it is damn near impossible, so we'll see how that goes when I get there. And then this next game here rounds out the series for me, and that's Valkyrie Profile, Covenant of the Plume. I had previously done a review for Valkyrie Profile, so I definitely recommend checking that out. I've yet to play the second game, and now I have this one as well. So lots of catching up to do. Then we got another game that I was looking for last year. This is Alien Hominid for the GameCube. I was looking for the PlayStation 2 version, but I'm not going to be too picky about that. This is a neat side-scrolling beat-em-up shooter kind of game made by the same people who brought us Castle Crashers, which interestingly enough is some of the main people for the Newgrounds website. It's like that's been around for a very long time, one of the early internet like Flash animation websites, so that is sweet as well. Then I'll have to admit I don't do the best research in trying to get complete collections for certain game series, so every once in a while I'll figure out there's another game I need to pick up. So this is going to be one of those, and that is Document of Metal Gear Solid 2. Again, I'm shooting for a complete Metal Gear Solid collection, so needed to add this one to it. And then this next one, I actually have these games, but I have different versions of them, so I was like, what the hell, it's a neat little collector set. So I picked up the Metal Gear Solid Essential Collection, including Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, and Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Of course, I have the original Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation 1, and then for Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, I have the Substance and Subsistence versions. And I'm definitely a fan of collecting variants, so needed to add that to the collection. So then onto some of the random pickups that I got. When I was getting Drill Dozer from Cliff, he also offered to sell me Star Fox Zero for a really nice price. Brand new, including both games, Star Fox Zero and Star Fox Guard, so that is cool. Definitely beefing up my Wii U collection as of late. Then this was a hookup from my friend Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, and that is Guilty Gear Judgment for the PSP. I haven't played any of the Guilty Gear games, but I have played a little bit of Blaze Blue. Though I don't play fighting games a whole lot, there's certain ones that I've been super interested in. Definitely the highly animated ones, so this is real cool to add to the collection. And then I don't remember exactly, but I think this came from Jason of Corpse Slug Gaming, and that is Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, including a bunch of Sega Genesis classics. And I love these collections, so great addition there. Then this next one is related to a old hobby of mine, collecting and reading comic books, which I don't really collect anymore. I still read comic books here and there, but this was of one of the main series and my all-time favorites. And I've kind of been meaning to kind of maybe catch up in some way or form. But I picked up Spawn Armageddon for the PlayStation 2. Don't know a whole lot about this one. I know there was a previous release that wasn't very good, and I was a fan of the Spawn for the Super Nintendo, so that's pretty neat. Then this next game I have never heard of before. Checked it out, said, hey, that looks pretty interesting. Checked out the screenshots on the back. It's like, all right, this looks like my kind of game. This looks like a survival horror. And this is a Lifeline voice action adventure. And this actually requires the SOCOM headset, so I'm going to need to pick that up before I can play this one. But I did have a friend tell me that this is a pretty neat game, so looks like I made a good choice. Then another game that I've been meaning to pick up for quite a while, just randomly. Didn't have a huge drive to have it, but I have heard it was a cool game. And one of the last releases from Squaresoft themselves before they merged with Enix, and that is the Bouncer for the PlayStation 2. Hard to go wrong with beat 'em up, I would say. And then this was another hookup from Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, which is a series that I've been meaning to get into for a long time. Surprised I've never played this or any of its sequels. That is Blood Rain for the PlayStation 2. It's right in my wheelhouse, so got no excuses, but now is my opportunity. So this next game has a pretty unique backstory. So I'm part of a Facebook group called the Midwest Retro Gaming Society, and while at the Midwest Gaming Classic, for everybody in attendance, we all decided to have a little meetup. The founder, Ben, decided to bring some posters for all members to have, and then we did a little drawing where he had some frame posters. He put together this neat framed poster set with some Nintendo repair advertisements, and then at the end he threw in this other game, and I happened to win this one, and that is Mike Ditka's Big Play Football. So after doing a little bit of research, this turns out it was a game that was officially developed but never released, and Nintendo Age actually put this together, made this complete in-box package. And what I've seen out of it, it does actually look pretty neat. Here's a little editor's note for you. Unfortunately, I didn't do the research on this game before editing this video, and I thought this was interesting enough to make a special note about it. So without a ton of deep diving on the internet, looking for videos of gameplay of this game, really all I could find was 3. One was capture, and 2 were of the TV screen. And especially surprising from what I can tell, is the ROM's not available either. And from my understanding, there's only 250 copies of this. So, this might be an opportunity for another video. Then this next item is something that I was really excited to get. I'd actually talked to the developer to see if, hey, maybe he could bring it along to Midwest Gaming Classic, and that is the FX Unit Yuki Treasure Box. Now this was basically a collector's edition that I backed on Kickstarter for this game. I've talked about this before on the channel, and I also did an unboxing video for this, so I definitely recommend checking it out. It's a really sweet game, and again, a big thank you to Saramaru for bringing this along to the Midwest Gaming Classic so I could get it a little bit early. Then this next thing here is really awesome. It's something that Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, put together for us being the people who attended the Midwest YouTubers panel, and actually we were on the panel. Myself, Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, Jason of Corpse Slug Gaming, and Musty Hobbit of Second Breakfast. And Chris made us these shirts to kind of commemorate the moment On the front there we have the Midwest Gaming Classic logo, and then on the back he put the name of our panel and our logos. Taylor from Rising Blue Phoenix was included, but unfortunately due to weather and some car issues he couldn't make the panel, so maybe next year. But this is definitely one of the coolest things I got at the convention, and thank you, Chris, for that. And then just for funsies, keeping my Midwest Gaming Classic VIP badge that I got for being on the panel, so that is pretty cool. Add it to the other one that I got from last year. Then this next thing here isn't actually a pickup, but I would say more of an upgrade, and that is my Duke Nukem bust from Duke Nukem Forever. And what's significant about this is, though I did pre-order this game originally, I got it on release. John St. John, the voice of Duke Nukem, was at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I checked out his panel, and then later he was doing a meet and greet where he was doing photos and autographs. So I got my Duke Nukem autograph. He autographed it on the back shoulders, which he said in his experience is the best place to do it. And I'd imagine he's signed quite a few, so he knows what he's talking about. Super awesome guy. And he even recorded a little voice line for my channel.
You're on the Game Grinder. Hail to the king, baby. And hail to this channel, too.
A bit cheesy, but I think that's awesome. Then if you watched my pickup video from last year's Midwest Gaming Classic, I picked up a bunch of posters from artist Lore from rainarc.com. Stopped by his booth again this year and picked up one other poster for Nier Automata. I love his unique take on a lot of our favorite characters, and I was more than happy to add another to my collection. And eventually I'll do a game room tour to show off how everything's set up, and I do have the 4 posters I got last year on my wall. Of course, I will be adding this one to it as well. Then the last thing here is the poster that I mentioned that all the Midwest Retro attendees got, and that is the poster right here. So I'll definitely have to get a frame for this, and I can add it to my other Midwest Retro Gamer Society memorabilia. So that is all my pickups for the Midwest Gaming Classic. Very, very successful. Though my wish list might have not been crazy expensive or crazy rare games, these were games that I was more than excited to add to my collection, and I'm pretty thrilled with what I ended up with this year. Then of course, I would love to hear your thoughts on some of these games, being that I haven't played most of these. Which ones would you recommend jumping into first? And then as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you next time on the Game Grinder.